What's up, guys? Football season is finally here today, and I want to make an announcement for this channel. My buddy Finn and I, we're actually in a Madden League together, the Madden League that I will be posting videos to on this channel very shortly. We started a new podcast that he had been running for a while, but now we're going to tag team it together, and we are calling it the Bye Week Podcast. It's going to be really fun. I'll be posting the videos to the podcasts here so you can check it out, but also I'll have the links for the iTunes and other places that you can get podcasts. I'll have the links to download the podcast elsewhere. Also, while you're here, if this is your first time following this channel or stumbling upon this channel, go ahead and check out the other videos I have, and if you like them, go ahead and subscribe, because I'm going to be posting really cool stuff every single week. I'm going to be busting my butt because with NFL, the content lasts about a week, and then you've got to make fresh stuff for the next week of football. So I'm going to be doing that stuff. I'm going to be busting my butt here. I hope you guys will follow along on the journey, and let me know what you guys think about the podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Mi Casa Su Casa podcast. I'm your host, Finn, and that is the last time I will refer to this podcast as the Mi Casa Su Casa podcast, as we are changing the name, and we'll get to that in a moment. But first, joining me once again is my main man, Anthony. What's going on, bro?
What's going on, Finn?
It's good to have you back, and it's good to finally get through that intro for like the fourth try there. We got it nice and smooth, so I think smooth sailing for the rest of the show.
Fifth time's a charm, like they say, right?
Exactly, bro. So, like I mentioned before, we are changing the name of the podcast to the Bye Week Podcast. Why the Bye Week Podcast? Mainly, the big focus with having an NFL-based podcast is every podcast that you listen to, whether it be the Barstool Sports ones, a random ESPN, if you're in the Colin Cowherd, I don't know, whatever you listen to, chances are they're all talking about the same things, and we would like to discuss our opinions on those as well. But I would like for this podcast, and I think Anthony shares the same view, is to cover the entire NFL. And a big importance is making sure you reach those teams, those small market teams, Kansas City Chiefs, Tennessee Titans, pretty much any team in the Midwest that doesn't have access to water quickly. So one of the ways that we can do that is through this, using the bye week. Every team has a bye week throughout the season. There's usually no more than 4 or 5 on their bye week at a time. And that allows us to, during that team's bye week, I've said bye week 9 times in one sentence in like 1 minute. But anyways, during that team's bye week, we can go in and kind of really get an in-depth look on where they're at now, what we think they need to do to improve or maybe stay the course if they're playing well, and then kind of look at their next matchup in detail. And that gives us a way to kind of review, keep every team on the menu here and keep us nice and fresh regarding content. And maybe we can bring in some guests regarding, that are, some writers, journalists, some film junkies that kind of follow these teams a lot more in depth than us. And they can kind of share some insight, and that'll allow us, once again, to keep everything nice and fresh and covering all 32 teams in the NFL. And then something else we talked about is obviously the bye week is a very relaxed time for teams in the NFL or anybody that has a bye week in any sport. So we like to keep this podcast nice and relaxed. We're not super scripted. We're allowed to make mistakes. We're allowed to have really bad takes, even though that seems to be the thing in most podcasts. So I think we're both on board for that, and we're super excited to launch the new name. But what we're also super excited about is this Khalil Mack business. For those who do not know, Khalil Mack has been traded to the Chicago Bears. Do you remember what the terms of the trade were? Yeah,
the Bears gave up 2 first-round picks, but the Raiders threw in a second-round pick also, which was kind of odd to me.
I think there's a third coming back from the Bears to Oakland.
A conditional
as well.
Pick, a later round one.
There might be a conditional, and then I think there might be a 6 as well. So you can see it as like 2 first and an upgrade from a third to a second next year kind of deal. But at least they're not giving up the whole house. What are your thoughts on this? You feel it's like a good move for Chicago? Are they a win now team? Are they possible? Are they close? Or do you think that there's still a couple years?
So the Seahawks made the latest trend in the NFL to find a young quarterback. While that young quarterback is on a cheap deal with their rookie contract, you load up at all the other positions, build a stacked team around that quarterback, and win now. And I think that's exactly what the Bears tried to do with their free agency approach, which I've said many times. I loved their free agency approach. It was basically you could have ranked my favorite free agent at each position, and they went out and they got like the top guy basically at all those positions this year. And I thought that they killed it. So by doing this, they're definitely in a win now. They want to win in the next 3 years or so while I guess they've got 4 years until Mitch Trubisky's rookie deal needs to be restructured.
Right. And if he plays well, and that's unfortunately, I mean, if things work out how they want in the short term, that means Trubisky's playing well, which probably means it's going to be a pretty expensive contract. But one of the big things I hear people talking about is this overvalue of draft picks, and you shouldn't have done that, and you're gambling away the future. And my thing is like, what is your goal in the NFL? Is your goal to have the best draft every year, or is your goal to win a Super Bowl? We've seen a lot of teams really just kind of flip and come out of nowhere recently. Think just as far back as a couple years ago, Oakland, before Derek Carr's injury, was probably the number 1 or number 2 in AFC team. Just last year, Jacksonville, having built a very stout defense through free agency and the draft, and then grabbing Leonard Fournette, they made themselves to the AFC Championship. The Eagles kind of had a resurgence, especially, once again, trading away future drafts out the ass to go grab their guy. So I personally don't think it's a bad move, and I think you're right. They nailed it. I mean, Allen Robinson.
I loved that.
People
pickup, man.
really forget about Allen Robinson.
Allen Robinson got Christian Hackenberg drafted in the NFL. I mean,
right. And not only that, their draft pick, Anthony Miller, is the only reason Paxton Lynch is a first-round pick.
And you love him.
Dude, let me tell you about Anthony Miller. If you want a hot take right now, okay, he is the only receiver in the next 2 years in the last 2 years of being drafted that I think has Antonio Brown potential.
Yeah, I think you're saying that though just because he's small. I mean, he's got the same skill set, but I think that as far as impact goes, there's definitely been some receivers. Of course, if you put me on the spot, I probably won't be able to name them off, but there's definitely been some really solid receivers with high ceilings. Now, Antonio Brown is just a special guy, and I think when you factor in the next Antonio Brown, I almost think you've got to give him that. It's got to be one of those late round guys, like really, like what was Antonio?
He's a sixth
round pick.
Yeah.
So if you're not a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick, you don't even qualify for next Antonio Brown. But as far as like route running abilities, and just overall like being pound for pound a good wide receiver, I definitely think that he's got a similar skill set for sure. I'll give you that one.
That's really what it comes down to. Obviously, legacy is a very different concept. And I think to say the next AB legacy, same thing for Tom Brady. You can't really say somebody's the next Tom Brady because that means, we're talking about guys like Jake Rudock or 6th-round guys. I think you're right there. But I definitely have this. It's definitely the skill set. And we talked a little bit last week about the only time I've seen somebody throw the ball like Dan Marino has been Aaron Rodgers and Derek Carr in terms of just like from the eye test, just literally watching how the ball comes out of their hand. And Anthony Miller has so many things that look a lot like AB, and that just might be him modeling. I mean, AB is the best receiver in the game, so it's zero surprise to see young guys modeling their game after that. But he's very feisty. He attacks the ball extremely well in the air. He can play inside and out, and that's what I think a lot of people are talking about, him playing in the slot with Gabriel and A-Rob playing outside, or maybe Kevin White if he sees some snaps outside. I think Miller's going to be playing outside in these 2 wide receiver sets. And then has the potential, if you want to bring in Kevin White, if you want to bring in, Javon Wims, right, who's been playing extremely well. Bring him in the red zone or big man.
You made the final roster?
I need to check, but I don't know how he doesn't make the final roster. And we can pull that up really quick. But I don't see a situation where he is the full-time slot. Can he play in the slot? Yes, but he didn't do it as much as people think at
he made it.
Memphis.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah. I mean, he absolutely. I mean, he's shredded. I don't know.
We both said last week that we thought that he should. It's just when it comes down to the numbers, it was a tough one. But
right. They've drafted extremely well. I mean, they have probably one of the best under 25, 26-year-old safety duos in the NFL with Eddie Jackson, Adrian Amos. Amos is very versatile, played at Penn State, played a lot of nickel corner. and then played a lot of free safety. So he's very talented. Fuller's healthy. And then obviously you go and grab the best edge rusher, arguably in the NFL. I think Von Miller's the only thing closer. And I don't think that since Mack's been in the league that Miller's been able to put up the same numbers. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
The only thing Miller really has going for him is Super Bowl MVP, which, I mean,
pretty big deal.
I don't think at any time you could say one's better than the other. I think it's just situationally at any given moment one can play better. But the benefit,
I think that the value with Mac is the versatility in positions,
right.
Like
exactly. All pro two positions. Yep.
Yeah, and now do I think that you could put Von Miller at defensive end and he would probably rack up as many sacks? Yes, but do I think he'd probably be a liability in the running game more than Khalil Mack? Probably, because he's just a little bit slighter in size. So
yeah, he definitely broke out with the switch to a 3-4.
Yeah, and now he's back in a 3-4 and is going to be, just unleashed. I feel like.
Right, and what I like and something we talk about a lot is just how much more valuable they're getting these outside linebackers in these 3-4s, and not only that, it's really almost devaluing the left tackle position because if you notice before, and this has kind of always been the example I go to now that Mac's gone, but every premier pass rusher in the AFC West plays off the right tackle.
Yep.
And I think that those guys figured something out, and that sometimes it's just better to have the quarterback see you come in every play.
Yeah.
Something about just looking at it every time out of the corner of your eye. There's not knowing if he's going to come or not off the blind side might help out a little bit. But I don't know what the full scope is. Also, the right tackle is not nearly going to be as good as the left tackle, and it's not like they can switch. So,
but that shift could be coming too with this shift that you pointed out with the premier linebackers or pass rushers moving over to the weak side and facing the not being on the quarterback blind side as much. Now people are going to put a lot more weight into finding a solid right tackle, kind of like the world champion Philadelphia Eagles. They've got one of the best right tackles in the NFL. So
right, Conklin over there on the right side for Tennessee is another. Yep. I mean, if you really think who are the best right tackles, there's such a drop off after those two.
Yeah.
Mitchell Schwartz deserves a lot of recognition in Kansas City, but I don't. I to be honest with you, I would struggle. I'd have to really think about who plays right tackle. Rick Wagner, but that's just my team. I think there's a lot of guys. What about D-Law? Is D-Law playing off of the right side?
No, he is a left defensive end.
Got you. Okay. But yeah, I feel like there's so much value. But either way, back to Chicago. I mean, Floyd and Lynch, those are good rotational pass rushers to play on the other side. They're going to cause issues on their own. An experienced middle linebacker in Trevathan, who's an absolute run-stopping machine. On top of the very rangy rookie with Roquan. They just have so much talent, and we haven't even mentioned their run game. And that's where they thrive. Or we say thrived last year. And if you could say thrive, what were they, a 6-win team? Or something like that, 6-7 wins. I don't even remember the Bears lineup. But the whole point is they went out and grabbed a lot of talent, but we've seen this happen before. People go and build dream teams, and it doesn't work out. Do you think that the new coaching staff can kind of accommodate for that, or what are your thoughts? Where do you think?
I'm excited to see what they can do. This situation with the coaching staff reminds me of what happened with the Rams last year, going from Jeff Fisher, same initials over here, John Fox. They're both real old school guys, ran similar systems, and just kind of very, very conservative play calling. Didn't want anyone making mistakes. Therefore, they did not like them to sort of they took the playmaker out of a lot of plays, I feel like, players, because they wanted them to play so safe and so reserved within the system. Whereas now you've got these sort of young offensive guys that have been sort of not revolutionary, but futuristic with their game plans and their style of play. The Rams and Bears are both going to be employing a lot more sort of spread offenses moving forward. And you see what it did for Jared Goff. He went from questionable as a huge bust, one of the biggest busts he would have ever in the NFL probably if he hadn't turned his career around after his rookie season for what the Rams gave up for him, to being a pretty competent, high potential third-year quarterback now.
Right. So, yeah, people are really looking on the up for him. So it just took a matter of a coaching change. And I think that's the key, man. I think you're right, is bringing all of these players into an existing system is going to be an issue because you're just trying to find the fits, where they fit within your current plan. Now it's a new coaching staff, and they got the guys that they wanted, and it's all new for everybody. And I think that that's a good thing, especially with a younger play call or a younger scheme set in versus something very old school. So I think you're absolutely right there. Mac, over or under 15 sacks?
Oh, under for sure. I don't think that that's a very easy number to hit. I think that he will definitely make a huge impact, but I think that he's going to see a lot of double teams. I see the other guys around him getting a lot of sacks. I would say his ceiling is probably 13 or 14, but then I'd see other guys getting, 8 or 9 because of all the attention that offenses are going to be putting towards stopping him, because now he's the big ticket guy. Like offenses are going to scheme around him, and because of that, he opens up things for other guys.
Right. I think he gets 6 sacks alone versus the Lions across their 2 games. Yeah. We're just not there,
huh?
It's pretty bad. Now, which is, we went line in the beginning, and we won't talk too long about the Lions here. They went line, but Taylor Decker has kind of struggled a little bit, and it's not completely his fault, Center and guard, you let Travis Swanson go. He's a Jet now. Played extremely well the last couple seasons. They don't really have an answer at left guard. They're hoping Frank Ragnow from the Arkansas Razorbacks, they're Razorbacks. He can come in and play well, but I just don't think that they're ready. Now, granted, they do have a quick screen game with Golden Tate and quick passing to Theo Riddick that might be able to mitigate some of those sacks, but Stafford gets hit a lot, dude. Stafford gets hit a ton. I think it could be bad. But once again, he's got Aaron Rodgers in the division. He's got Kirk Cousins with a very stout offense. So I do think the sack numbers will be low. So I agree with you, under 15 for Mac. But I don't think his pressures is going to drop. I don't think QB hurries is going to drop. I just going to think sealing the deal is going to be a little bit harder in this division versus the other division. But then again, he's played against some very talented guys in his career: Peyton Manning, Phillip Rivers, Alex Smith, guys that can get rid of the football fairly quickly. Now, we mentioned Cap, the situation going on with Kaepernick before, but I'm not completely full on the details. So kind of give me the explain like I'm 5 version of what's going on. I saw the Nike ad. He's kind of the front man for their new ad. What's going on there?
Yeah, well, apparently they had never actually unsigned Kaepernick, if that makes sense. They'd never been one to say, we're going to go ahead and cancel our contract with you. He had a contract before the whole kneeling thing, and they've just sort of had him on the back burner. So I guess he's kind of been getting paid in the background here from Nike, and now he's sort of launched this new advertising for their 30th anniversary of the Just Do It campaign.
Gotcha. Now, do you think – and this is the cynic in me. We're about to hit week 1, and the highly controversial new rule in the NFL, the highly controversial kneeling anthem issue, that's about to start back up, as much as we would wish it would go away. So do you think Nike's just trying to benefit off of it?
I mean, they should be. That's their job to benefit off of that stuff. I mean, capitalism is what makes the world go round, and that's what they are definitely capitalizing on here. I mean, it was definitely strategic timing by them, and it was brilliant timing. But it's something that I think that now we're all reaching a point of fatigue with this. I think that there is a lot of the people that are not okay with it, the people that are still frustrated and saying that they're boycotting the flag and that they think that they should go find another country, yada, yada, yada. Those people seem to be more in the minorities now. Yeah. And people have kind of come around to it's worked. Basically what they were doing, it has had some effect, and people are like, oh, you know what, they were right about that. We know what they're kneeling for. Now we're no longer ignorant to the fact that this had nothing to do with the flag. It was just using that moment, that quick, few minutes in the beginning of a game to bring attention to something. And now with everybody sort of on board with that, with it coming to the end, this was the only time to do it. If they had done it next year, it would have seemed redundant. If they did it last year, people would have been kind of confused and not really sure why retail company like Nike was jumping on board with that. So I think that this was the perfect time for them to do this. And like you said, it does make sense so much for them profit wise, because now, they actually just re-signed a deal with the NFL this spring too for another 10-year contract with the NFL. So it's really a big sort of FU to the NFL, because they can't say anything about it now. They're locked in a deal with Nike for the next decade.
That's a good point. Yep.
Nike kind of just was like, hey, we are going to stand for what we think is cool, and this is what we believe in, and this is the right side of the fence in our opinion, and whether or not you guys agree or don't agree, you're going to pay us for the next 10 years either way.
Right. So now that counters my cynic mindset, right, is that, well, you just kind of have to protect your business first before you can go make a statement, because then you would have re-upped and we would have had all these new jerseys get made. Even though I wouldn't be against it for some of the NFL teams, those Jacksonville jerseys are clean.
Dude, I like them too. A lot of people were like, oh, they're so boring, they shouldn't have changed. No.
No, they're so
Tom Coughlin's a no-nonsense guy. He wanted no-nonsense jerseys. That whole gold gradient thing they had on the helmets was kind of awful, so I like them. I think it's nice. The collar is nice too. They kept a little bit of stripe there.
Right. Just all of it. Full black helmets look clean. The numbers, big numbers look really, really good. I think Tennessee's look great as well. I really like Tennessee's new look. I kind of was bored with the old look. So,
what I think though? I think that we're going to look back at Tennessee's last uniforms in like 10 years, and we're going to be like, those were some of the nicest uniforms ever. They got stale. That's all.
Right. I mean, it's a long time.
Yeah.
So I don't have an issue. But yeah, it's a good point. And I think we kind of both, even though me and you haven't formally kind of talked about our decisions, because even if we disagreed, you can work in a workplace, right, where people disagree. But we agree on kind of where we stand with Cap. I think I agree with you where the biggest issues seem to be not people being against the message that was being portrayed and protested. It was just they didn't know what was being protested. And then the problem with our culture where the first time we hear about something, the first news article we read, we never check back up on it later down the road and go, oh, is that really what he's protesting? Or no, they just see the article, black athlete kneels, disrespecting anthem and a military, and those who died for your country. And that's something really quick to just latch onto and run forward with. And then, and then you get caught in the echo chamber. Chances are your Facebook friends subscribe or watch the same articles as you, and you're all talking about it. And I definitely like it from a from a moral sense. And then I think it's good for football, especially as they push forward with the rules here. That's going to be a major decision for them is just how the public generally views some of these rules, ideally. So I think we agree there. I would love, let me bring this up here for you. Something I was watching some film on Kaepernick. I had to challenge my view. My thing with Cap was always I support him for what he's doing. I don't think he's good enough quarterback to play in the NFL. Do you remember the supporting cast on offense he had when he was making the legendary run through the playoffs? Do you remember at all?
When they lost to the Ravens in the Super Bowl, that team?
Yeah. Do you remember who was on that team?
On his offense? Or just on the team in general? I mean,
we talk about the defense, right? We talk about, we're talking about Willis, Bowman, Justin Smith, right? Just monsters, but they just absolute, or was it Whitner? Was it Dante Whitner? I think
Whitner, yeah. He had just come over.
Right, absolute monsters. But do you remember who was on the offense? I think some of the names will surprise you. So we all know
Crabtree was there.
We all know Crabtree. We know Frank Gore was there.
Vernon Davis was still there.
Vernon Davis was there. But there is another, I believe, all-pro, definitely Pro Bowl, but all-pro tight end that was on that team. But I don't think he got all-pro with them.
Was it Dixon?
No. And then there was two more receivers, one who it kind of exploded, I would say, after that, and then a name that you might have forgot was even on the Niners.
Delanie Walker.
Delanie Walker.
I'm not even going to lie. I had to look that up. That's pretty cool. I did forget about that.
Played a little bit of fullback, played a bit of tight end.
Yeah.
So he was on that team and played well, caught some great passes. This is the particular film was the Packers game I was watching. Ted Ginn Jr. was on that team.
Yeah, but nobody there is really blowing me away. I mean, that's just good, solid NFL roster, I think.
Right,
I mean,
right.
That was a lot of – I thought that was Harbaugh at his best. Like, that was an awesome coaching job by him because who was the coach there before? Was it Singletary?
I believe so.
And he just ran that team. I mean, remember he dropped his pants in the middle of the locker room. Like, that guy had no idea what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had Harbaugh come in and completely change the culture there. I thought that was more of a play by him. I mean,
I think just the point was, is we often view that defense. We go defense and run game. That was always my thing was.
Yeah. I mean, it was a well-constructed team.
Yeah. And I looked at it. Randy Moss was on that team as well.
The shell of Randy Moss.
The shell of the GOAT, right? From your
without a doubt.
The Anthony proclaimed GOAT. So but I think that it was a really good team. And I don't think Cap couldn't play in the NFL now. So I think I was probably wrong. My big thing is I don't think he's worthy of being a backup quarterback. I think if he's not a starter for your team, I don't know if he holds much value to your team unless you run a scheme like that. So Seahawks, the Titans, those kind of teams, those kind of mobile-based quarterback teams.
So who would you, if you were the Ravens, who would you trust more as your backup quarterback now? RG3, who had a good preseason, but is frail and ready to snap it at the next hit, or Colin Kaepernick running a similar system?
So when I think of what I value a backup quarterback, I think that's where we have to start here. When let's go specifically Baltimore, and then we can kind of branch it out. If Flacco goes down, record pending, right? But for most teams in the NFL, outside of the anomaly of Nick Foles, when your starting quarterback goes down, your franchise guy goes down, your season's basically done. Your backup is damage control. Maybe if you're in a lucky situation like Philly was, where they were only a couple games away from the end of the season, you can come in and get yourself to the playoffs. That's kind of the anomaly. But for most teams, starter goes down, season's over. All right, we've seen it happen with the top end guys. For sure. Obviously, the middle range guys where maybe the team is kind of being carried a little bit more by their backup. But Colts sucked without Manning. Colts sucked without Luck. Rodgers goes down. Brett Hundley couldn't do anything. Tom goes down. Actually, Tom's gone down and team went 11-5, but that was also with a roster that had just gone 18-0. So 11-5 is a huge downgrade without Tom Brady. So that's that. So when I think, what do I value in a backup quarterback, system dependent, but really for the Ravens is I need a guy who makes whoever's starting the best version of them. Whatever quarterback Monday through Friday in the film room on game day provides the best help for my starting quarterback, whether it be Joe, whether it be Lamar. And I think I want RG3 there because of his experience in the various systems. I feel like he had a little bit more complex system than Jim, who just kind of well-constructed teams. It wasn't the most complex stuff. RG3 he's been at Cleveland, which isn't exactly the most complex stuff, but he has been under Shanahan and McVay, his coaching. And before that, right, Gruden. And it's from a good coaching tree. And I feel like there's a lot of fundamentals, and I think that's the reason why he's still in the NFL right now is because of his value there with knowing those things. That's where I value the backup quarterback position. I don't think too much, and maybe there should be a trending now that we've seen what happened with a good mid to high level tier backup quarterback, what can happen if you have a well-built team. But for Baltimore, I just want the most experienced quarterback to be sitting next to Lamar so that when Joe's playing and makes a mistake or a good read, that quarterback can instantly process that, look at Lamar and explain to him things and learn and help teach my guy. And I don't think Cap coming into Baltimore right now would help make Lamar a better player. I think the goal would be for Cap to start, which I don't blame Colin Kaepernick for wanting to get a job to start in the NFL. But you didn't just spend pick 32. I don't know if it was pick 32, but a first rounder on a guy so that you could bring in another dude to try and start and not help him out. Every quarterback in that room needs to be helping Joe play at his best and Lamar learn his best. And I think RG3 does that better than Colin Kaepernick. But I also think there might be better quarterbacks that can do that. The reason why I say this is I point to guys like Drew Stanton out in Cleveland, right? Same exact thing. Nobody's expecting Drew to really get serious minutes, but Drew has been all over the place. He's been with Bruce Arians for the last couple of years. He's been in Detroit. He's been around the league, and he's going to provide valuable information for Baker on the sideline while Tyrod can do his thing, if that makes sense. And I know I'm rambling here, but that's where I value the backup quarterback position. I don't ever think, when I'm thinking of who do I want as my backup, especially if I have a first-round rookie on the bench as well at QB3, I'm never thinking my QB2 backup needs to be a guy who can come in and play, and I can build my offense around him. It's got to be totally different. So I don't think he's a fit in Baltimore.
So my take on that is that is definitely a factor in when searching for a backup quarterback. It depends on if you are trying to develop a young guy, you definitely want a guy that's been through, some live bullets, has fallen down and tried to get back up again. You want them there to break stuff down, just like you said. With that said, though, I've never really thought of RG3 as a real heady guy. I don't think he's one of the more elite quarterbacks when it comes to intelligence. He won with athleticism.
I agree.
And whatnot. So I don't know if he's going to be the best guy for breaking them down. What I think is the ideal fit for a backup quarterback is based on the system. You want a quarterback that you can run a similar system to, so that you don't have to change your entire scheme when they come in, unless you are a team like the Texans last year who, when they benched Savage, they changed their entire scheme. And that's why they had this year a guy like Joe Webb, who's been a quarterback wide receiver combo his entire NFL career, actually make the roster, because there's a chance where they don't really want to put Brandon Weeden in. They know what Brandon Weeden is.
Right.
If they are rolling and they just need somebody to come in and run the same offense for them for, the end of a game or something like that, or for an extended period of time even, they're going to come in and they're going to have a guy like Joe Webb be able to run the same offense and whatnot.
Right. Like if your running game is based off of RPOs, you need a quarterback that has a little bit of threat within RPOs versus a guy to come in and line up in power or is strong and run power, right? There's no reason to do that. And it would hurt the other players on the team having to adjust, because if say same as it's basically the same thing, right? The scheme talk. If my running back can get yards within our options system, that's great. But he may lose his value mid-game when we just have to switch to running single back dives and powers or toss or whatever the hell we need to run. Yeah. So I agree. And I also agree with you with RG3. I do not think RG3 is the best option for teaching your next quarterback, right? Because he is definitely the guy. But I think that is a behind-the-scenes thing, because some of the best backup quarterbacks in the NFL, guys that have played for a long time, have never been able to put it together on the field. So for all we know, RG3 may have absolutely got it. And this is a complete toss-up, right? But Charlie Whitehurst, Brian Hoyer, guys that have absolutely got it down mentally, very smart guys, and then they just can't put it together in front of the crowd on Sunday.
Yeah.
But behind the scenes, they might be really good at it. That's something I can't speak on. But that's what I would imagine could be the reason why RG3 is there, because there's a lot of quarterbacks that they just can't do it. And it's tough. There's a reason guys are getting paid hundreds of millions of guaranteed money to do this. Yeah, because it's not easy. Not even being a starter. There's only probably 16 guys worthy of being labeled starter caliber NFL quarterbacks, and then the rest of them are faking it.
Yeah.
Or they have a system built around them. So
as far as locker room, that's sort of like you're a mentor type of backup quarterback. You'd rather that just have them in the quarterback room and on the sideline rather than actually on the field. One guy who I think is probably one of the more underrated backup mentor quarterback type of people is actually on a team that we've been talking about a lot here, and that's the Chicago Bears in Mark Sanchez.
Mark Sanchez? I was thinking
Mark Sanchez is a bro, and that's exactly what you want your backup quarterback to be, somebody who's just going to get along with everybody. And Mark Sanchez has actually been through it all. Like, he was a top draft pick. He went to AFC championship games, played at a high level. Yes, he fell off because he's got that sort of – he gets those yips like you're talking about, like when you get in front of the live bullets, you kind of cower. I mean, that butt fumble destroyed him. There was no way he was ever going to recover from that mentally. But I saw him up close when he was the backup quarterback with the Cowboys, and he did wonders for Dak Prescott on the sidelines because he was able to sort of walk him through a lot of things that he has seen before and break things down. They had a great relationship. And I know that with Mitch Trubisky, he's got a very similar relationship with him on the sidelines. and that he was going to help elevate his starting quarterback because, like I said, he's just a bro. He's like a California bro, man. Like he's an underrated guy for real, and I think that he's going to relate a lot of success for Mitch Trubisky this year in the new offense.
Yeah, I think your quarterback has got to be the player coach of the team. If you don't already have a player coach, your backup quarterback has to be that player coach, and he's just wearing pads instead of a polo on Sunday.
And that's where RG3 might struggle because obviously I've never been in these locker rooms, but the rumors and the reports that go around was that he wasn't the greatest leader, he wasn't the greatest teammate. So hopefully he's had to go through quite a humbling experience, and now he is not going to take this extra chance for granted, and he is going to be a good, solid teammate and just what Lamar Jackson needs.
Yeah, we'll see. And maybe he's embraced the role. Maybe he gets along with Lamar extremely well. But once again, he's a guy who won the Heisman, has had a high-grade season, has experienced the lows, and understands, the mentality. And hopefully they've kept him on because of that, because of the same situation to get Lamar where Lamar needs to be. I actually did not think you were going to go Mark Sanchez. When you said Chicago, I thought Chase Daniels. But before that, and leading into our next topic point, so my segues are on point here, I was thinking you were going to say Josh McCown. Now, Josh McCown hasn't exactly been behind a bunch of very successful guys that gone on to start in the NFL. In fact, a lot of those guys end up getting hurt, and Josh McCown ends up starting. But a guy that's been all over the league, who has seen a ton, played under a lot of different systems. His teammates rave about how smart he is. And now he's going to be the backup quarterback for Sam Darnold, who has been announced to start today for the New York Giants. What are your thoughts on Darnold's first game? They have the Lions this week.
You just want to talk about your Lions. Let's be honest.
I'm always down to talk about these Lions.
No, and actually, I did make a mistake. Sanchez isn't with the team anymore. He was with them last year, though, and that's when I saw a lot of the chemistry between him and Trubisky.
Right. But I agree with you. Sanchez has definitely been a guy that since he became a backup.
He's been a bro. But Chase Daniel's a bro too. Did you see that undercover video where he was getting teammates to sign autographs and stuff?
Yeah, he's super bro. And another guy that's been all over the place. Was it Nagy or Nagy?
Nagy.
Is he a KC guy? Because that's down in KC, right?
So, that's why Chase Daniel's there now.
Got you. Okay.
But anyways, you want to talk about your line? Or sorry, Sam Darnold. I'm excited, man. I'm not as high on him as Tony Romo, who said that he's going to be the next greatest thing. I was high on him in the draft. I consistently mocked him to the Browns because I thought he had the highest potential to sort of turn a franchise around. I know that there's a stigma with these USC quarterbacks. He's another one that people are worried about. But I think he's a different cat. I know that people say he's a turnover machine or whatever. We'll see. I don't think that defense is going to present much of a challenge for him. Honestly, as much as you probably hate to hear it, I don't think that that's going to be their strong suit this year. But I'm excited. I think he's got a high ceiling, and he's got weapons for sure.
Right. Well, to fairly preview Sam Darnold, I need to unfortunately take a little look at the defense that he's going to be playing. So let's break down the Detroit defense for you. I hate to have to do this, though. Last year, the Lions were top 5 in run defense before Haloti Ngata went down, and then they dropped to dead last. So the importance of interior linemen position on that team, I need to say no more with how important it is. A'Shawn Robinson is not going to cut it. They have Sylvester Williams, a UNC guy who's bounced around the league. I don't think he's going to cut it. And they didn't address it at all. They did grab like a 4th-round pick out of Alabama, but I don't think that he's going to be – I don't think he's seeing starter snaps at interior alignment at all. So I'm really confused with this defense in that regard. I think Crowell is going to come in and light it up on them. Crowell is it seems like every year, the first 6 weeks, Isaiah Crowell leads the NFL in rushing, and then just this hard drop-off as the Browns, struggle to win and stay in games, so they go to passing the ball way too much or getting Duke Johnson in the game. But Crowell's there. He's playing. Powell looks good. He's always been a kind of a low-key talent there for the Jets, and they surprisingly have good pass catchers, and Darius Slay's not going to do it all. Now, they do have talent in the secondary. Like I said, Slay, Quinn Diggs. They re-signed Diggs to a 3-year deal. Quandre Diggs specifically, not Stephon. But linebacker is a huge question mark for this team. Gerard Davis is talented. He gets into the backfield, but he doesn't finish on a lot of these plays, and he is lost in coverage. And like I said, they have very good pass catchers. You have Javon Curse. Or is it Jermaine or Javon? Jermaine Curse, right? Quincy Enunwa. Robbie Anderson.
Robbie Anderson's my favorite one out of that group for sure.
He's so talented. He's so good, and he is so quick. And Slay is going to be probably on him all game long. And they're both very quick, but you can't slip up on Robbie Anderson. You said, is he what?
I knew he had some sort of suspension issue floating around, but it's because he had a charge of reckless driving, but right. He hasn't been – it's still under review, so.
Yeah, I think that's not going to affect week 1.
No.
What I do think is going to happen is I think Sam's going to play well. Right, I could see 2 touchdowns. I could see an unfortunate, pick or fumble. Pick one. It's one of the two, but I think there will be a turnover. It's tough. You're in the limelight. It's Monday night. You are playing a good team. And another thing I need to think of is I don't want to overreact off of preseason. All right, the Patriots were never teams that shine in the preseason with Patricia, and it's kind of the same thing here with the Lions. They didn't really look good. They didn't show a lot. But it's just a preseason, and we don't know what's in store. So I think it's a question mark. You need to err on the side of they're probably not ready on defense. But they might be rookie quarterback and new for the Jets ready. So I think it's going to be kind of a coin toss on how they perform. I like Darnold. I think he played extremely well, looked extremely poised. My favorite was the situation where he threw the touchdown pass, and there was a penalty on the play or a drop. It was one of the two. I think it was a drop by that guy. And then they went back to him the next play. Same guy, and it threw the touchdown pass. And I just think that it shows that Sam trusts his guys and has the maturity to not let things get to his head, to put the play away, get back to it, throw a good pass. I don't remember too much about his receiving help at USC, so the whole turnover thing. That's when we get back to our talk we had with Dan Hatman at the Scouting Academy, which is you can't look too much into what happened in college. You got to see the scenarios and just hope it improves or hope that those were extenuating circumstances and variables that were causing a lot of those things to happen. Same thing with like Jared Goff, right? Didn't win a ton of games at Cal. Didn't really have a lot of help. Same thing for Josh Rosen, who didn't really win a lot of games at UCLA. Didn't really have a lot of help. It seemed like every time I was watching Josh Rosen highlights, they were down by 20 points.
Yeah.
So I like Darnold. I think he'll do well. I could see 60% completion percentage, couple touchdowns, and then a turnover. I ultimately think the Lions are going to win. They're going to probably go 16-0 anyways. No, I just think that, that team is built a little bit better on the offensive side of the ball, and they can put up points. And that's what I would like to see. But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility if they go in and they win on Monday night.
Yeah, I think they'll win on Monday night, but I think for the only way that the Lions to have a winning record this year is that Kerryon Johnson ends up being that Kareem Hunt, and that Frank Ragnow makes a huge input to sort of solidifying that whole offensive line as a whole. Now, the center is a big underrated piece of the offensive line sometimes because he really does get everybody in check. And I think that if Kerryon Johnson, and I drafted him in a couple leagues, even named one of my fantasy teams, Carry On My Wayward Son. So I'll be rooting for him to do well, but I'm not expecting it. Does that make sense? It would be a good surprise if they did well, but I think that they end up being fourth in that division, especially after the Khalil Mack trade.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think the Vikings are probably a season away from a Super Bowl appearance. I think the Green Bay Packers, if that defense continues to play how it has with the rookie secondary, I think they're the clear favorites for the division. While you would think Minnesota, I will never doubt Aaron Rodgers healthy in that division. It's just you would not get me to believe that.
But that is the defense that knocked him out last year, so who knows?
Exactly. I just think there's going to be some change. There's some changes that happen in Minnesota, and I just think it's going to take a year. But I could easily be wrong. I'm not completely strong on that.
I'm all on the Vikings this year. I think they'll be the best team in football.
I love Kirk. You could look on the
I don't love Kirk.
And I've said Kirk has. I, I got a big old argument on Reddit. I said that I named the video Kirk shows like elite play or something like that. I think Kirk has elite qualities. Do I think he's an elite quarterback? No, but I think there's things that Kirk does at a very, very high level.
Yes.
And I really think that having a healthy offense and talent around him, you just saw it night and day, like his first throw to Diggs, just dropping in absolute dimes, and Kirk is such a talented leader and mental guy for the game. So I think he's a perfect fit for Zimmer. And then that defense is going to put him in positions that make life a lot easier. It's not just going to be Kirk kicking and screaming, dragging us to wins. There's going to be a lot of situations where Kirk does not have to win the game. Where Dalvin Cook, it wins the game. When, Harrison Smith or just that entire defense wins the game for you. So it puts up 20 points on their own. So it is what it is. The next thing on the list was we were going to, and I talked to Anthony before this, we were going to do the one last chance to change your predictions. And the reason why is because with Darnold being announced the starter and Peterman being announced the starter for the Bills, my whole Josh Allen thing really seems to be going out the window. But I'm sticking with it. I don't think you need to have the best complete season to be Rookie of the Year. You just have to show flash. And I think I'm going to say I'm sticking with Allen. I'm sticking with Allen for my offensive Rookie of the Year prediction. Wow. I'm not changing any of the others. Panthers offense looks good. Cam was flipping over the Patriots defense. He's ready to win. So let's hop into our final two kind of talks here. The free agency waiver surprise cuts. Obviously, this past weekend, a lot of guys lost jobs, gained jobs, thought they had jobs, and then after making the 53, and then their team picks up folks off the waiver wire, and then they lost their jobs. So what kind of things jumped off the page, guys, you really didn't expect to get cut, and then maybe some guys that you're excited to see get picked up by certain teams?
I mean, this might be a slight homer pick, but Dan Bailey for the Cowboys is their kicker. I mean, he's been probably the best kicker of this generation other than, the obvious Vinatieri, but he's been the second most accurate kicker in NFL history. And to see him get cut when you didn't think there was actually a competition for a guy from the CFL that only had like 78% accuracy there, it was kind of surprising to me.
Yeah, I wonder how much was – I don't even know, man. He's not making big money. He's just kicker money. It's not like Dallas.
$3.5 million, I think he counted against the Cavs, something like that. Now, if they want to go ahead and use that for Earl Thomas, it makes a lot more sense. Right. But, yeah, I think it was a move to try and stay ahead of that kicker decline curve. It eventually comes for all of them, some sooner than others. I don't know what Adam Vinatieri is drinking up there in Indianapolis to still be doing it at like 48 or something like that now. But that was a surprising one. Another one that I was kind of surprised about is Martavis Bryant. And I guess the marijuana investigation or whatever, the charges against him with that looming is a significant factor. But I still think that guy is an alien on the football field. And, I figured he would definitely make that team. But who knows what's going on down there in Oakland right now.
Quick comment about Adam Vinatieri. I think that the thing about him is there's zero pressure for Adam Vinatieri. There's zero. Kicker is one of the most pressure positions because you go from sitting on the bench and doing whatever to having to come in, and everything that all these guys have put forward, all the injuries, all the battles, the individual plays that they make, all come down to whether or not you're accurate at your job. The thing that you practice a couple times a week and then sit in meetings for, right? But it's Adam Vinatieri. Like if he misses, it's like, but I won like 3 Super Bowls. So what can you really, I think that's part of the big reason why is because he's like, fuck it. Look at the kicker market. It's me or Robert Aguayo. And the guy, I've won 3 Super Bowls. So you tell me. Well, I think 3, may have won more. But it's like, you tell me who you want. So
what a smart move to go from New England to Indianapolis, from going outside in the snow and the wind to go indoors for the majority of your career to finish it out.
Right. Prater did that as well, right? All the way up in Denver, kicking, getting paid, and then going to Detroit inside the dome as well. But, he's in the north, so he does have to play Minnesota, which is no longer in a dome, obviously Lambeau, and then Soldier Field. So Martavis Bryant was another one. I definitely was a little bit of surprised that Carl Nassib getting cut after making the 53, and Nate Orchard.
Yeah, you thought they would have kept one of those guys.
Right. Especially because Carl's a pretty talented guy. He's filled in whenever, guys like Ogba have been hurt. Orchard, I think people just kind of fall in love with him because of Hard Knocks, and I'll be guilty. I did too. But we have to remember it's about week in and week out. Preseason is for the fans, but how many times have people had preseason guys make absolute huge plays and then just not pan out and not put it together? So maybe something within the practice room that or the film room or in the practice field that he's just not putting it together as well as other guys, or he may be in a situation they did bring in some waiver wire defensive linemen, and then they might be thinking, let's give these guys a shot. All right, cool. Maybe it doesn't work out. Maybe they bring Orchard back. I'm surprised Hankins doesn't have a job. Jonathan Hankins hasn't been signed yet, but I do think that has something to do, and I was reading it up, with if they sign him after week 2, you don't have to pay him the full season of guarantees. You just pay him week by week, especially for a guy like that who's probably going to demand maybe $5 to $8 million a year. It's a little bit easier to do that. So I think that just has something to do with how bad the NFL Players Association argued the collective bargaining agreement. So I don't think we'll see Hankins or guys like Dez signed until week 2 or week 3 of the season. Man, to run through everybody, Corey Coleman doesn't have a job anymore.
Yeah, I think that's just not an NFL wide receiver. I mean, that's just an athlete that was making plays in the Big 12.
Yeah, very well could be. There's a lot of guys, and it could be mental, man. Even if, like Coleman is one, right, that kind of has the athletic tools, but maybe not have the mental or may not be able to put it together on game day.
The things I heard about him is that he just doesn't know an NFL route tree still.
That's a huge thing, especially for these Baylor guys.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, there was this running back that came out from Baylor a couple years ago, went to the Redskins, had a very impressive preseason, never made an NFL roster. Do you remember the name? Latch Seastrunk? Does that name come to mind?
Yeah.
So Latch Seastrunk was a name, and he was a very talented guy. I think he's the guy at Baylor who self-proclaimed himself to be the Heisman winner, busted a wide-open run. Halfway through the run, he pulled his hamstring, and he kept running as all these guys were chasing him down. He's just pulling his hamstring. So it was a really impressive, very talented guy, but just couldn't put it together. And some guys' ability just doesn't trump the mental game.
Yeah.
Because everybody's athletic out there. Rico Gathers got cut.
No, he made the roster.
Wait, did he really?
Yep.
I read a wrong article. All right, cool.
Even though he got busted for marijuana possession the night before cuts, he still made the team.
You know what? That's what it was, and I think I just assumed. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did too. I was like, well, he's gone.
Yeah, I pretty much thought it was done. Speaking of Paxton Lynch earlier, I wanted to bring this up, but Paxton has got his tryout with the Buffalo Bills. I don't know what they're planning on going. It's just going to be the guys that have the strongest arms, even though he doesn't really have the strongest arms.
They're going to have a couple of big, tall, strong-armed guys that can move around a little bit. That's another system where you can find a backup quarterback potentially that matches your future starter. Maybe he's a long-term backup there. I don't know.
Right. And kind of the replacements for some of the guys we talked about. The Raiders signed Brandon LaFell to fill the void for Martavis Bryant. Yeah, Brandon LaFell really.
You know what? John Gruden is doing exactly what he did in Tampa, just getting a bunch of old guys, and this is why he's such a perfect match with the Raiders, is because that's what they used to do too, is just become the NFL retirement home, and it's not going to work anymore in this day and age in the NFL. There's too many good young players that if you rely on these old highlight tapes to build your team, it's not going to work. Right.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on in Oakland, but what I do know is they have a really talented quarterback.
Is he
Amari Cooper? I like Derek Carr.
I know you do, but is he as good as we thought he was, or did he just have a flash in the pan that one season? I mean, he's got a lot of coming back to do to get in people's good graces, because he at one point was looking like and I'm scared that you're just holding on to this memory. He was looking like he was headed for top 10, top 5 quarterback eventually, because he's got the skill set. He's got that same Aaron Rodgers skill set that you just fall in love with.
Well, I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback. Let's go ahead and throw this out there. It is. I have a crush on 2 NFL quarterbacks that I have no business having a crush on. It's Derek Carr and Trevor Siemian, and I don't know why. Something about the AFC West.
Do you
I
even know where Trevor Siemian is now?
he's back up for Kirk. I know all
Yes.
about him, but I liked him mainly because of the way he played. I followed the Broncos for a while, and
Yeah.
I liked how he played in those preseasons. I love a good underdog story. A 7th-round pick coming off an ACL injury in college, going in and beating out the groomed protege for a job, and then playing pretty well until about week 9, after he suffered a shoulder injury. The run game kind of went away, and Gary Kubiak was in the hospital. So, but I've kind of liked Trevor. I like the way he plays. And also, if you've ever seen it, have you ever seen his first play in the NFL as a starter?
No, what was it?
They came out. This is after they've won the Super Bowl. They're playing Carolina on the Thursday night game. So he snaps the ball, play action. It's a play action with a backdoor screen. I believe it was to a tight end, may have been to a receiver coming in. He turns around off this play action to find the screen, and I think it's Thomas Davis, but somebody is in his face, I'm talking right there in his face. And he goes, he's ready to throw it. He's expecting to turn screen. He turns and catches, an starting NFL linebacker in his face. And just in that moment, he pump fakes over the top, gets the guy off of his feet, plants his feet like a shortstop, turns this thing and goes sidearm to the screen. And I just remember watching it and just going, ooh, this guy doesn't panic. Now, obviously, once the offensive line went away, I think he's fine. I've always said he's like a fringe starter. So that it's not like I think he's a top 10 potential quarterback. But I just think Trevor has traits that some NFL quarterbacks don't have. I just think he needs a place to try it. And then Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr has got loads of talent. He might have one of the better just arms in the NFL. I just don't know if he's going to be able to put it all together. And I don't know if Gruden – at first I thought Gruden, being a very mental guy, a playbook guy, would be able to do that. But I don't know what's going on over there right now. So I guess we'll just kind of hope for the best with him and see where it goes. I am excited Shaquem Griffin gets to start this week because KJ Wright is out. So that's another guy that I'm looking forward to that I really like. I know it's not a quarterback, but he gets to start. So super excited for that. Let's talk a little bit about week 1 here to wrap us up, man. Let's rapid fire this. We'll just go. I'll list the game. You tell me what you think and give me a quick reason why. Does that work for you? And then
Sounds good.
All right, cool. We got Atlanta at Philadelphia.
You actually convinced me on the Falcons here.
Oh, is that just – I don't think I convinced you. I think Doug Peterson starting. Nick Foles convinced you.
That helps too, yeah. Just everybody being out, it sucks. They're going to struggle in that game, I think.
Yeah, I don't trust too much. I mean, they're not riding the hype that they had in the playoffs.
Yeah,
I agree. Atlanta here, mainly because of that offense. It's fucking ridiculous. Calvin Ridley should not have gone that late. Pittsburgh at Cleveland.
Oh, man. I actually have Cleveland as my upset of the week here.
Right. I think a big thing is if Lev Bell plays.
Yes. And even if he does play, I think that he's going to be a little bit rusty. He hasn't been with the team. I think that the hype, I might be drinking the Kool-Aid, but I think that the hype surrounding the Browns right now is real, and I think that they're going to come out. They're going to get exposed later in the season and be the Browns again, but I still think that they can pull this one off.
Mobile quarterbacks tend to kill coverage linebackers, and the Steelers don't even have any coverage linebackers. So I think they're going to absolutely shred them with the talent they have. And I just think that if Tyrod breaks loose and shows the mobility and smart decision-making, I just don't see the Pittsburgh linebacker core being able to help and stop plays, whether it be coming up and tackling Tyrod in the open field or covering guys long enough. I think that's where they're really going to get stretched. They have a lot of rookies and young guys playing. Arnie Burns is nice, but Edmonds is kind of a huge question mark. So I think we can both go Cleveland here. Just because Cleveland's turnaround in talent. Cincinnati at Indianapolis.
I think that I can't trust Andrew Luck yet, so I got to go with the Bengals in this one.
Ooh, interesting. Cincinnati just re-signed pretty much half of that defensive line that we were talking about a couple weeks ago. I do trust Andrew Luck. Very much do I trust Andrew Luck. I think he's got it. I love Cincinnati. I think A.J. Green looked really good. Tyler Eifert looked really good. I don't think Ross is really a part of that offense yet. And I think Andrew Luck can come in and play extremely well. I think Ebron is going to be the real difference maker against the Cincinnati safety group. Not having Ioka is really going to kind of hurt them, I think, in guarding those kind of speedy guys, because I don't know who all. Burflick's not really going to do it, and I don't know who else is in that Cincinnati linebacker core or safety core that can guard a guy like Eric Ebron or Jack Doyle. So I'm going to disagree with you and go with the Colts there. Let's go Tennessee, Miami.
I've got the Titans in this one because I'm just not sure what to think of the culture change in Miami. So I like what the Titans are doing. I think they're going to be a rebound, not a rebound because they want a playoff game, but I think that they're going to have better coaching this year.
I agree with you. Mariota, I think, is in a prove it kind of year. Derrick Henry's going to get a lot more of the load. Deion Lewis is a great addition, and then Corey Davis is healthy. And I think that's going to be a huge difference maker. And we haven't even talked about their loaded secondary with Malcolm Butler, Kevin Byard, and Logan Ryan. So I agree with you with Tennessee. How about I go this time, and I'll let for the next couple to go first, and then you can kind of refute the points here.
Sounds good.
San Francisco at Minnesota. We've talked about this game before. Jimmy G, coming out party. This is where we really get to see what he can do with a full offseason. Jerick McKinnon is out for the season. I don't know what their answer is at running back. And Reuben Foster is suspended. I think that kind of helps me and convince me that Minnesota is going to win with Kirk Cousins and the loaded defense from last year. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Like I said, I think that the Vikings are going to be the most well-rounded team in the NFL this year. And I think that defense is just going to be way too much for him to overcome in his first real season as the starter.
I agree. Houston, New England, Tom Brady. Next question. What are your thoughts? I think New England by a mile. I know they're not the most stacked team roster, but I just I don't know how I feel about that. Watson without Fuller. Fuller's not guaranteed to play. I know he's week to week or day by day with the hamstring. They obviously are stacked at other positions. I'm just going to err in the side of Tom Brady, the GOAT.
Yeah, I mean, I'm erring in the side of Bill Belichick, the GOAT, because I know that he was probably caught off guard by how good Deshaun Watson was in person. I think he's going to have a scheme set up for him. I think that he probably recognizes that that's a team that he might have to see later on in the year, and will have spent some time this offseason sort of prepping for this game in particular and just knowing how to stop Deshaun Watson. And I definitely think that the Patriots win at home.
Gotcha. Now we're back to Tampa Bay at New Orleans. We got Ryan Fitzmagic versus Drew Brees and Alvin Kamara. I'm going to go with the Saints. I think they are one of the favorites for the NFC, and I think they come out firing. Kamara's going to get a ton of touches, which means a ton of yards, in my opinion. And then from the quarterback position, it's Drew Brees. So I'm going to take the more experienced quarterback most of the time in these kind of situations.
Yeah, I have to agree with you here. I'm not as sold on Kamara having the same input without the sort of battering ram Mark Ingram for the first few games this year, but I definitely think that the Bucs are going to be a horrible team. I don't think that the Fitzmagic runs out. He's only good at coming in for a starter after the first starter goes down from injury or so. So I think that he comes up short in the first week.
Don't forget, Fitzmagic led the Jets to an 11-win season. Let's go back to, or maybe 10, but it was close.
It was a much better defense that he had on that team than this one.
Well, they got a good front seven, but Vita Vea is not ready to play yet. We'll go back to you first. We have Odell Beckham versus Jalen Ramsey, and
Nice.
Selvin Smith and Miles Jack versus Saquon Barkley. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, this Jaguars-Giants matchup is definitely an intriguing one, and I've got to lean towards the Jaguars, even though they are on the road. I think that Tom Coughlin is going to have his boys ready to go to beat his old team. I just like the defense a lot more. I think that Eli Manning this is going to be a bad season for them. Cutting Davis Webb was a sign that they don't really know what they're doing at the quarterback position, but they just didn't feel comfortable taking one in the draft.
Right. If you had to ask me how much money I'd be willing to put down that Alec Ogletree can stop Leonard Fournette, it's exactly $0. I will say this, though. Odell's an absolute game changer, and I think that those guys are going to have very flashy performances, but I do think Jacksonville is going to come away with some key turnovers and key sacks to really to stop New York from scoring big points.
Yeah, I got to say, I do appreciate the NFL schedule makers for giving us the Jalen Ramsey, Odell Beckham Jr. matchup in week 1. I think that was an awesome idea. And a lot of times you don't have this inter-conference matchup with the AFC, NFC, but this is definitely some good week 1 action here with those two.
I agree. We got Buffalo versus Baltimore in probably the snooze fest of quarterback play with Flacco and Peterman. I think. Oh, you're going first this time. So what's your thought?
Sure. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think this is potential to be one of the more boring games of the week, just because nobody wants to see Nathan Peterman. I think that the Bills are, excuse me, the Bills are basically saying Josh Allen wasn't quite ready. We don't want him to face this, what I think is going to be an elite defense to start the year and start on a bad foot. I think they're going to let Nathan Peterman take the lumps, and I think they're kind of throwing in the towel on this one, honestly.
Gotcha. I think Flacco looks really good from the limited things that I've seen. I like Crabtree. Crabtree has looked very sure-handed. Alex Collins is finishing off a pretty impressive end of last year. And then the defense, man, they do have some talent. They have arguably a top 5 middle linebacker in C.J. Mosley, though Madden ratings would tell you differently. Terrell Suggs and Matt Judon are very high-end edge rushers. So
their secondary is no joke either.
Yeah, I mean, Tony Jefferson, Eric Weddle, Jimmy Smith is healthy. Marlon Humphrey. I think they have a lot of talent out there.
Davon Young. Yeah, they've got a lot of good players out there.
So yeah, I'm going to go Baltimore this one. KC versus the Chargers, as my daughter has some input on this one. Casey Hayward versus Tyreek Hill. That's another big matchup I'd love to watch.
I don't think you can man him up, though.
There's not a soul in the NFL that can man him up.
Yeah,
you know who did do you know who's done the best job of manning him up that I've even come close to seeing? Aqib Talib.
Interesting.
Aqib Talib is the closest.
Bullied him.
Yeah, no. Aqib, yeah, probably that's what. Yeah, I mean he's only you really can't press Tyreek Hill, but what you can do is pressure a quarterback with two of the best pass rushers in the NFL with Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram. And you're all in on the Chargers. I think I'm all in on them for week 1. So I'm going to go with the veteran quarterback with a more polished team. They let David Amerson walk. I don't know if they're going to be able to guard Keenan Allen with anybody on that roster. I think if KC wins, it's going to be a Hill and Berry fest, or Hill, Kelsey, and Berry fest. But I think Derwin James versus Kelsey is going to be a fun matchup to watch as well, on top of Hill and Hayward.
Yeah, I just don't see Patrick Mahomes coming out in his first game against a defense this good and getting that win on the road. So I got to go Chargers.
Agree.
Like you said, I'm all in on them. I wouldn't be surprised to see them in the Final Four of the AFC. So,
wow. Well, I agree with you there. I think that the AFC is pretty weak, and this is a time for them to jump up. Russell Wilson's funeral is going to take place in Denver this weekend. Paul Bears are going to be Von Miller and Brandon Chubb. What are your or Bradley Chubb? I think that Denver's got the emergence of Emmanuel Sanders coming back after some rough time dealing with the quarterback situation there. He-Man looks good. Royce Freeman's going to be the starter over Devontae Booker, and they have the same defense that they've been rolling with for the last couple seasons. That's been able to lock up guys like Zeke extremely well. Had to throw that stab at you. I'm going to go. All that being said, I'm going to go Russell Wilson.
Wow.
All that being said, I'm going to go with the Seahawks. I think that they're going to just.
Wow.
I think it's a mental thing. It's just a mental thing with Seattle and Denver, and I think that.
So last week I told you my big thing on this was the. No, we didn't talk about this last week. This was somebody else I was talking to, but it's that they're going to be in Mile High. This is week 1 of the NFL season. Players run out of breath so quickly in mid-season when they are already in football shape at Mile High. So even if the teams were level, I think that the home squad gets the push here. But I don't think that the Seahawks are going to be very good. I think that they're going to rely way too much on Russell Wilson this year. And I think that he just runs out of steam up there in Mile High. And can you believe that Super Bowl 50 between these two teams only 3 years ago, and look at the shell of
how
those
fast they
rosters.
fall.
Yeah.
I want to say this, though. Watch out for Deion Jordan. He is the counterpart across from Frank Clark for the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Playing. I think he put up 8 sacks last year, if not a good amount of sacks in a very short amount of time. So Deion Jordan is a guy who can come in and make a difference. Speed at linebacker once again, Shaq Griffin and Bobby Wagner. If they can get those guys tired and worn out, you can cause some issues there. You're absolutely right with being in Mile High, but I think that there's still enough of the core group left
Yeah.
to come out and play well.
We'll see. I'm definitely going with the Broncos on this one. So
I think now knowing that Earl Thomas isn't going to be there. It's a
yeah.
huge difference maker. So we'll see. But I'm just gonna trust Russell, third best quarterback in the NFL. Washington versus the Cardinals in Arizona. David Johnson is making his return. Adrian Peterson's making his first start for the Redskins. This is a tough one, but I'm going to go with the Arizona defense here. I think there's a lot of speed on that defense. I'm excited to see Hassan Riddick in a pass rushing role versus coverage linebacker. They have a guy that I consider to be the second best cornerback in the NFL, and Patrick Peterson. And I just don't know if Washington's ready to put it all together yet. But they do have talent. I just don't know if I think that they're completely ready.
All right. So I will say that I think that Washington's I think these defenses are both very underrated, first of all. I think the Redskins' defensive line is going to be one of the better defensive units in the league this year. And I think that they actually will probably be able to slow down David Johnson a little bit. And if you remember, Adrian Peterson signed with the Saints more than likely because they had the Vikings week 1 on their schedule, right? Now he gets another X team, although, not as long of a relationship, still an X team in week 1. And last year when he switched over to the Cardinals and got that full load, he was actually looked like AP of old for a little bit, had flashes. I think that what happens is that he's just going to run out of stamina as the season goes on. He's no longer, a full-time running back. I think that he's got a couple good games left in him, and I think that he will actually surprise the Cardinals this year. And I think that the Redskins win the first week.
Right, and he's splitting time with a very talented Chris Thompson. Chris Thompson just can't do some of the little things that AP can in terms of power run and getting the hard yards.
But it's a better mix than him and Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara was in New Orleans. That's for sure.
Right. Your Cowboys are going to take on the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. What are your thoughts there?
I think the Cowboys' defensive line is also going to be a very good unit this year. And with Matt Khalil out, going on IR, the left tackle for the Panthers, I think that is one of the bigger difference makers here. And that they are still going to struggle to sort of get into Norv Turner's new offense, and that they won't be clicking sort of on all cylinders just yet. The Cowboys win.
I think Carolina wins, but I think that it's going to be close, and I would almost say I can't decide. Awuzie looks extremely good. And Sean Lee healthy causes a lot of issues for a guy like Christian McCaffrey. He's not going to be able to just bang in the box with a guy like Sean Lee. I did name not just Cam Newton as the MVP, but Luke Kuechly as being the defensive player of the year this year for my predictions. But I do think it's a slow start, and I think that Dallas can come out and pound the ball. That's where, Carolina kind of is hurting a little bit. Luke can be all over the place, but you can run the ball against Carolina. Injuries on the offensive line. And then I haven't seen too much DJ Moore incorporated. I don't know if that's just keeping them healthy or not. This offense seems to be a lot of Funchess, Olsen, Curtis Samuel. If DJ Moore shows up, I think there can be some big plays there for Carolina. But I'll go Dallas, and I'll go Dallas by like less than 3 points. If a game goes to overtime this week 1, it'll be this one.
That'd be a good one.
Khalil Mack, Sunday Night Football, Aaron Rodgers in Lambeau. I'll take this one first. It's going to take a minute. And Aaron Rodgers is the kind of dude that can make being pass rusher really, really hard. Aaron Rodgers is very talented. That defensive line or the cornerback group looks fantastic. I think they're going to ride the hype at home. Sunday Night Football. I think that Green Bay takes this one.
Yeah, I agree with you. I had a lot of Bears fans in my YouTube comments asking me if the Khalil Mack made me change my mind on these picks, and it's just too soon for a guy that has not gone to training camp yet, is just showing up with the team the week before week 1. He'll make an impact, but I don't think that he's going to be the game-changing impact that the Bears fans may be hoping or praying for just yet. It's going to take a little while for him to really get acclimated. And I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to come out on fire with his new toy and Jimmy Graham.
Right. And then Leonard Floyd has the broken hand. I don't know how much he's going to play. Aaron Lynch has 2 sacks last year. So,
yeah,
and I think 9 tackles. So I think there's going to be a lot of focus on Mack, and I do think he'll get some pressure. I don't know if he's ready.
I mean, I don't even know if he'll play full time, though. That's really
Right.
the thing. Like,
Right. I think he's definitely in shape too.
without a doubt.
So, but obviously there's going to be little things there. Situational football that you're going to have to take
Yeah.
him out because of the nature of your play
I mean,
calls.
somebody's going to have to tell him his role on each play because he's probably not going to know the defense. I don't know his connection, if there's any sort of coaching tree that links him with Vic Fangio or not, but he hasn't been in a 4-3 or 3-4 for a while.
Right. Granted, though, he is a smart football player, and it would be really quick for a guy like Clay Matthews to be able to relay the information to him on what he needs to do. And I don't think Mack isn't the kind of guy that could. I think he can come in and play every snap. I think you're right. I don't think they're going to. I think situational football, they're gonna play it smart. They do have talent, right? They got Nick Perry, they got Clay Matthews on the outside, so they don't need. What am I talking
about? Two different teams.
I'm wrong. As soon as I said, I was like, I'm talking about the wrong team here. Switch that.
They should have now that maybe you're thinking because the Packers were thinking about.
Dude, I'm so dumb. I went on a whole. I hope that wasn't too long of a tangent.
No, it wasn't too long.
I just started saying the wrong players. All right,
I wasn't going to say anything, but once you brought Nick Perry into it too, I was like, no, we got to stop.
You got to stop me. I was going. Yeah, they don't really have much help. I think he can, but I think they'll wait. You're right. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
That was silly. All right. Well, we have probably 1 or 2 listeners that are listening this far into the podcast anyway. So now on to the important games. Monday Night Football. Detroit versus New York. I think we both said that we think the Jets can win this game. So I think
I think the Lions. Oh,
you think the Lions?
Yes. Too much for a rookie quarterback in their first start. Monday Night Football. That's tough.
In Ford Field, I'm inclined to agree with you. Yeah, you know what? I'm on the fence on this one as well. Very much so.
It's hard to be impartial when you're talking about your own team. I know.
I didn't grow up a Lions fan though, so I'm not that biased. I hopped on the bandwagon when I don't even know if you can hop on the Lions bandwagon. I'll share that story later. And then the last game, we have the newly signed Aaron Donald. We thought this was going to be an intriguing matchup, the Darnold Mack thing, but Mack's gone, and I think that they're going to go in and drop 40 on the Raiders. And I hope he, didn't have plans to stay up too late to watch that game. Well, even if you did, you probably are going to throw it off before halftime because it's going to be done early, I think.
You know what? My thirst for the NFL is so real for NFL games that actually matter. I will be up until 2 a.m. or whatever it is here on the East Coast when this game is over. Even if the Rams are blowing them out 42-12, I just don't even care. I will be watching this game all the way to the end. And I definitely think that the Rams are going to blow the Raiders out.
I think you'll be all right. I'll be asleep, buddy. I'll be asleep. When they get 40 points, I'll be out. All right. There's the only thing more scary than
See, I wait for the memes, and the memes always happen when the best memes happen in blowouts. So
I feel that. Got you. The only thing more scary than the Rams offense, in my opinion, is Tua Tagovailoa being the starter for Alabama. That's for another show.
Yeah,
all right, man.
Funny.
I went a lot longer than I thought it was going to go.
Good.
That's a lot of games.
Week 1, we're excited.
A lot of games.
We're finally here.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to get this uploaded, posted. Let us know what you guys think, what horrible predictions we have for week 1. We will review when we come back next week. Look forward to week 2 and talk about whatever's going on then. So thanks for joining me today, my man.
Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. Until next time.